Hopefully. Back from Sunday where the police they come to me. I know we have a forum, but I'm not happy for it.
January 12th, 2026, and it's the first executive board meeting of the Stanislaus Council of Government. If you would, please go ahead and call the order.
Chair Buck Condit.
Here.
Member Chiesa, Vice Chair Carr,
Here.
Member Swallen,
Here.
Member Hernandez. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on, public comments. Member of the public may address the committee on any item not on the agenda. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Do we have any public comment about items not on the agenda? Being done, I'll bring it back to the policy board and move on to consent calendar. Any executive board member like to discuss anything on consent? Anything public comment on consent item? Anything online? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second. I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Unanimous. Well, unanimous with 3.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, discussion items. 5A, motion to recommend the policy board to adopt a resolution authorizing the interim executive director to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement amendment. Number 3, for the Convey Incorporated contract for the production of the fiscal year 24-25 Measure L annual report. Jean Fletta.
Yes, yes, thank you. Next slide, please. So I'm sorry. StanCog has an existing contract with Convey Inc. for Measure L outreach and education. Convey is the contractor that also produced our 23-24 Measure L annual report, which was Amendment 2. The cost to produce the report in 23-24 was $15,000. This year for 24-25, the annual report is expected to be produced at $23,000. I know that is a considerable amount more, but there was a lot of cost overruns that we experienced the last time that we did this report, many of which were associated with outreach, sharing the document with multiple committees, sometimes twice. The new contract, which we are proposing, would be a total of $26,450 paid for, which would assume a contingency of 15% contingency, and would be paid for the Measure L administration funds, not from the outreach and education funds. I want to make sure that that's very clear. And it would also extend the term to March 21st, 2027. Next slide. The scope of work for this project is to deliver a complete publication showcasing the organization's achievements, financial performance, and key program outcomes. Gather content from stakeholders and synthesize organizational data and create compelling narratives. Follow the applicable accessibility standards and align those with the client's established brand guidelines. And the final deliverables, which would be a print-ready report in English, and then distill the Measure L report in a format suitable for publication in the local newspapers. That's something that we added this year. So with that, it's a pretty simple report. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Jean? Jean, I just had one. So different from last contract, is there anything different coming into this new contract that they're going to be providing? It's just a cost increase?
It's mainly just a cost increase. The only thing that increased really was the amount, like I said, and like I think you're alluding to, and that is simply just because of the back and forth that we had to do, which is something I felt, and I think everyone involved in the project felt was necessary to have input from our MLOC, our MFC, our policy board, such.
All right. I'm going to move it to public comment if there are no other questions. Any public comment on this? And then I'll bring it back to the executive board for a motion to recommend the policy board adopt resolution.
So moved.
I have a first.
I'll second it.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. With the board. All right, moving on to discussion action item, motion to recommend the policy board extend the professional service agreement with the Infinity Technology.
Yes, thank you again. Next slide, please. So Infinity Technologies is the agency that provides our IT services right now. IT, as you well know, is a critical component for our day-to-day operations. The contract with Infinity actually expired on June 30th, 2025. The monthly services for that is about $20,000 a month. What happened was the staff person in charge of the contract no longer was employed by StanCog, and subsequently there was an oversight that was not discovered until last month. During this course, we put into place having a person just simply be monitoring our contracts for us so that we mitigate this from happening in the future, because we know this is not the way to do business. StanCog will need to do a request for proposal to solicit vendors for the IT support services. That process takes about 3 months for solicitation award, and we anticipate coming back to the board in April. So this is just asking to extend the term from basically now until the end of until we select a November, which we anticipate to be in April.
Any questions for Jean?
I do. Is this the only company that we have gotten a proposal from, or have we actually gone out to bid and received several proposals?
No, that's what we'll be doing in the next couple months, is actually going out for bid, and Infinity Technology can bid, and then any other vendor can bid on this service as well.
Okay,
during
so
that
this is
time.
just extending our
Yeah.
consent for until what, June?
Yeah, it's essentially extending the contract and just letting you know that there was a mistake made, just for full transparency.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? I'm going to open up to public comment. Anyone have public comment? You would just state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ron McMurtry here. Thank you, Director Folletta, for your presentation. There's a thing, I don't remember if I did this as a public comment in the past, but if not, I want to say so now. I've noticed personally and witnessed in other cases a lot of malfunctions where people online were getting cut off or a lot of technical difficulties. And I'm wondering if we need to be looking at upgrading the equipment at all as part of the budget for IT it's been difficult. It happened to me twice, and so that means must be happening elsewhere too. So I just want to. Is there any thought as to upgrading equipment? Thank you.
I think that would be part of the RFP process, right, Gene? That when we put that RFP out, I'm sure that would be looked at.
Yeah, we can ask them to do evaluation of our services and then make recommendations on potential upgrades to the services.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other public comment? Anything online? Okay, I'll bring it back to the executive board for any further questions, comments, and or motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to 5C, motion to recommend the policy board approve the 2026 state and federal legislative platforms and projects priority list. Hey,
Yeah, thank you. So I think this is a kind of a new process for you. Typically, policy boards review the agenda for the year so that staff has an idea of where to focus their energies, and also, providing blanket authority to write letters on the things that we are prioritizing, and also just get your input. So hopefully, moving forward, you will have this every year. And we did work a little bit with your staff on some of the concepts, and I think moving forward, we'll probably do a lot more of that. I'm going to let Mitch Weiss from Corey to go over the state agenda first, and then I will review the federal and the project priorities.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to be here in person. First, on the state level, I just want to start off by mentioning the state budget, which was just released last week. The general fund revenues, their multi-year outlook are up about $42 billion than over what was projected last year, but there still is a multi-year deficit that they're projecting. This year, before the adjustments made in the budget, it was at the $2-3 billion range, but looking next year, it'll be more in the $20 billion range. So there's significant problems the state has to address. In terms of cap and trade funding, we had a lot of conversation over the past year about cap and trade moving to cap and invest and how that money was going to be spent. Part of what was enacted was a legislative discretionary pot in the second tier, which was $1 billion. Most of that is being directed to CAL FIRE in the governor's proposal, but there is $125 million for transit passes. We've yet to see information about how that's going to work. But those are a couple of big things in the budget. And next, I'll go into the legislative platform. First, it's by and large the same as we had last year. There's some wording changes, some focuses, some things are stronger. We're rather than support, it's advocate for. But it's really more or less the same thing. And as we got a handful of foci that we're looking at, pursuing funds to match Measure L funding priorities. We're looking at supporting a cost-neutral revenue source to replace the gas tax, restore the truck weight fees back to funding transportation, supporting transit funding and reforms to performance measures that were recommended in the recently released SB 125 Transit Transformational Task Force report, easing SB 375 implementation, supporting funding to help transit transition to zero emission buses, streamlining project delivery, and advocating for alternatives to address the job housing balance. And so in the attachment 2, there's a detailed list, the issues, the goals, and strategies. I'd be happy to go over any of those or answer any questions about the proposal.
any questions?
Just a quick question. There's a lot of emphasis in the last couple of years on exploring different VMT options. Has there been any movement around that?
There continues to be conversation at the state level, but the administration, from my view, is the administration hasn't had a strong desire to lead on this yet, and part of that may be to how it's perceived in other areas, but there is actually a lot of conversation going on in Washington about different ways to do it. There's conversations about doing a type of registration fee, which we've had some conversations about. There's conversations about doing a road charge. So part of what I've heard out of DC, and this is certainly not my area of expertise, but that because of these conflicting issues, it's going to slow down the Surface Transportation Act moving forward. That said, the state did hold a number of hearings led by Assemblymember Lori Wilson throughout the state, looking at different alternatives. The state is doing another road charge pilot program. This is the second one. So at some point, I anticipate us getting the results of that. CALSTA is the state transportation agency, is charged with implementing that. They delegate that to Caltrans, and so we'll keep an eye on that. We've had some conversations about using a part of the vehicle registration fee as what we think is a more equitable way to do it, and really a more politically feasible way. I think people understandably have a lot of concern about the idea that the government is going to somehow track where we're going. And interestingly enough, many of us have much less concern about private companies tracking us, but there's a lot of concern about that. And I think politically, particularly if someone were to have aspirations for national office, to be seen as pushing something that's viewed as that invasive is very difficult for the state level. So that's for that reason we think the registration fee is a better way to go. We're still looking forward to some of that movement and hoping that these hearings that Assemblymember Wilson had lead to more discussions.
I have one question. If there was any discussion much surrounding this, and speaking of vehicle miles traveled and trucks and cars and all that we spend a lot of time talking about, I was at a meeting over the weekend with a person that's quite in the know of Silicon thinking, and he speculated that within 20 years, we wouldn't even be driving cars, that it will be all automatic, and then the cars will all be stacked somewhere. They'll be stacked, and then we'll just call one of them and they will do the driving. And I mean, it will just be, and that's not that far off.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's just a completely, different way of thinking. But what's your take on that from what you've heard?
Well, a decade ago, I was at a presentation about a futurist saying that was just around the corner. And so that corner perhaps is a little farther off than people think. I'm sure it will happen if we all want it to happen. And when it'll happen, it will be very quickly, just like the transition to cell phones. We went from no one having cell phones to everybody in the first world having them in a really short number of years. And there's an argument to be made that automated vehicles are going to be safer, that the cost is going to be lower because they're going to be electric. And so for the cost for you and I, it would be cheaper to dial up a vehicle and borrow it. I think there may be a generational thing. I mean, I own 2 cars and I'm one driver, and I've got one car and I just want to get it and go if I'm going to go camping, and another one if I want to go on a trip. And for me, I have a hard time thinking that I'm going to make that transition. My kids maybe, but I think there's also an acceptance thing. I don't know that people are quite ready to accept not being in control, not having a car.
Right. I mean, all of those things are factored in. I just wondered if there was any talk, when you consider the considerable amount of time that we spend on all of this way of talking and planning for roads, when it's potentially, if it does happen like cell phones do, a lot of this is going to be obsolete. So I just didn't know if those conversations come up. We're still planning for everybody to have 2 cars and going forward with that.
I mean, I think for the large part we are, and then there are other things that are really on the edges. For example, and this a decade ago, they started painting some of the white stripes on the freeway with black in between, so it's easier for those to be read by vehicles. So there are some things that are happening. It's just there's a lot of reluctance. There was talk within the administration a handful of years ago that, autonomous vehicles would be the ones to start a road charge with. There's no personal it's no one person, it's a bunch of companies. At that time, it was 60 companies and 300 vehicles. And there was a lot of pushback from Silicon Valley against that. So, part of it is how do you transition?
Thank
Super-
you.
It's a super interesting question.
Any other questions? All right, I'll open it up to public comment. Have any public comment? Sorry,
Done the federal part of this yet?
jumped ahead of myself.
No worries.
Go ahead, Kate.
And you're going to be here for a minute, Mitch, in case there's some questions from the public.
Of course, I will not be running away.
So on the federal side, we're really focused on the transportation authorization legislation and modeling the funding after the IIJA. In particular, we are also concerned about protecting certain programs from sequestration, the BUILD program in particular, and New Starts, which are both critical for StanCog. We're also, similar to the gas tax in California, identifying sustainable funding for the Highway Trust Fund, which is also based on a per gallon gas tax. And as Mitch pointed out, the consumption is going down, and we're not able to keep up with the cost of our transportation infrastructure. The other thing that we're focused on is preserving consistency between the federal and state air quality conformity standards, and advocating to eliminate hurdles that hinder the implementation of the state, the SIP fund, state implementation plans. The other thing that the legislative agenda for the federal has, local control, and then just ensuring that, that we have policy decision over the revenues that we receive. So those are the big things. And then this year, we also worked with your staff to identify project priorities. So StanCog's project priorities, and this isn't in any particular order. I think I put it in StanCog's at the top just because this is this board, but the rest of them are in alphabetical order. So we obviously have our two big projects, State Route 132 West and State Route 99 and State Route 132 interchange. And then Dakota Avenue to Gates Road. And then there's a number of projects that your jurisdictions are working on. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but they're there. And, when funding becomes available, especially competitive funding becomes available, we have the short list of things to work on for this year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kate? I'm sorry, Rach. I thought you were getting ready to ask a question. All right. If there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Anything online? Bring it back to the board for a motion to recommend to the policy board.
We'll make a motion.
I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Unanimous. All right, moving on to 5D, draft January policy board agenda. Janet.
Good afternoon, members of the Executive Committee. Before you, you're going to see the agenda that we're proposing for January. On there, we have a public hearing for the UTN. We have a presentation that'll be on the pavement and bridge target analysis report. Go to the next page, please. And we are wanting to have a closed session as well. If there's any items that you'd like to move to the consent calendar or vice versa, please let me know now.
I will throw this out there. I will not be at this policy board meeting. And we do have the motion to elect chair and vice chair.
Mr. Chair, if you could come closer to the microphone, please.
Thank you, Shannon, for that reminder. So I will not be at this next policy board meeting. And we do have the election for chair and vice chair. I am going to ask the policy board if I could serve another year. It just so happens I won't be at this next meeting, so I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's beyond me to say, can we push it off another month so I can be there, or I can do it in absentia, whatever.
So I wouldn't necessarily put it off. I think that we carry forward your message that you want to serve. I don't see much of an issue with it. I really,
On the flip side, if you would prefer that we push it off for 1 month, I have no problem with that either.
you only have 11 months, so.
Yeah. And that's fine, because I started this term in March last time.
You did.
Yeah.
Is that when we started elections? Do you
No,
remember?
I think that's when I took the chair, was in March, if I remember correctly.
I believe last year we did the chair and vice chair election at our February policy board meeting.
Okay.
And I say we do it in February. I think that makes sense. I thought we had done it in January, so. If we make that our date, March is the new date.
Well, generally, we do try to do the elections in either December or January, but the last 2 years, for whatever reason, there have been circumstances that have necessitated postponing that item, and so it's come later in the year.
So I'm good either way. I just thought I would mention that to the executive board and fill you guys in on and let you decide one way or the other.
Is it in our bylaws anywhere? Because we need to, this would be another one of those things, we need to do it. And if we choose February as the date, then we choose February as the date and we start electing. Because we've gotten loose with things like this.
I will pull that up and verify the date in the bylaws. I know it's an annual basis based on a calendar year, but I will verify if a specific month is identified.
So I would suggest that if it says that it should have already happened, or it is to happen this month, that we do it this month. If there's flexibility, then there's flexibility. But are you saying that you have been in March 2 years?
1 year.
Oh, 1 year.
Yeah.
It's been 1 year. Okay, in March. Thank you.
Any other issues with the agenda? Open it up, to public comment. Any public comment in this agenda item? Anything online? All right. Directions have been given, so moving on to interim executive director report.
Well, Happy New Year. Yeah, I'm wanted to report that Shannon Silva has been promoted to HR manager and board secretary.
Congratulations.
Shannon has been with the agency since April 2022. She was originally hired to be an executive administrative assistant, but has been serving as the HR manager and board secretary for the past year. Shannon brings over 8 years of experience in management roles and 11 years of progressively responsible administrative experience. So congratulations to you, Shannon. Your promotion is well deserved.
Thank you very much.
I'd also like to introduce our newest staff member, Sophia So. Sophia joins StanCog as an assistant planner in programming and project delivery. In that role, she will take a more proactive role managing Measure L and provide support for programming federal and state funding. She joined the programming team at the beginning of January. Before joining StanCog, she served 2 years in the AmeriCorps, a U.S. federal agency known for its national service and volunteerism, and was placed in both Oakland and Stockton, working with community stakeholders, local and regional governments, and planners to improve those communities. So welcome, Sophia. We're happy to have you. The team continues to make headway on a number of objectives to ensure transparency and to improve information to the policy board, to our JPA partners, and the community. As part of that effort, staff will provide monthly updates on California Transportation Commission's activities, and that will be done by Jose Luis Casera every month at the policy board meeting. StanCog's federal and state legislative advocacy firms will provide monthly written reports tailored to StanCog. And this month, staff will present proposed federal and state legislative platforms, which you've already received, for the policy board's consideration, which includes, as I noted, a list of StanCog and JPA's 2026 project priorities. The agency has posted a position for a new finance manager. Staff would appreciate the policy boards disseminating the information to candidates that they think are qualified. The position has been expanded to include additional oversight responsibilities, including administration, HR and board secretary responsibilities, contracts and procurement, and risk management. Finally, there will be a policy board closed session to discuss the building at 1407 I Street. We had hoped to hold a closed session today on that topic, but staff did not receive all the information in time. There are several additional options for the building, and the closed session will seek your direction on proposals moving forward. And then finally, I wanted to give a shout out to the entire team, but especially Shannon Silva for getting the executive committee agenda packet out 6 days in advance of the meeting. We are aiming for 7 days in advance, but we certainly made a lot of progress. So well done, team. Thank you so much.
I didn't read it till yesterday. Terrible. Thank you, though. No, no, I do. It's triage.
All right, thank you for your report. Any questions for Kate? All right, any public?
You added responsibilities to the finance director. Are we changing the salary band? Or do you think it's necessary if we haven't?
I don't think it's necessary based on what we already had listed for that position, but I will note that we are working on a compensation, we're collaborative effort with our other San Joaquin Valley COGS on salaries. And we're also doing a classification structure so that various staff in particular silos have an opportunity to move up and what that looks like. And we don't have one now. So I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Probably all of your agencies have that. So we are working on that. And I'm hoping that that will come back to you in March. Optimistically, I'd like it in February, but I don't think we're going to be there. So, so stay tuned for that.
All right, any public comment? Online? Okay, bring it, there is no action on this, but I would just like to say thank you to the entire staff. You guys have been working very hard. We're progressively moving forward, and you guys are doing a great job. And to everybody, the new hire, promotions, congratulations to all. All right, member reports, any member reports?
I'll wait until the policy board.
Okay.
So I just wanted to first apologize for showing up late. This morning, we had the Regional Policy Council, and for those of you who might, this morning, those of you who might not be aware, it's the 8 Valley County COGS coming together. We do much of the same things we do here, but on an 8 Valley County. Today, we went over our federal and state legislative policy, and Gus was on rather than Mitch, and who's here. And it's always an interesting component trying to, because you know how difficult it is for us to land on a platform here, and then you start adding people that have different opinions. So this is our 4th or 5th attempt through executive committees there, of which I also sit on. Until today, we did adopt the platform, but there was a lot of discussion on the vehicle miles traveled. I told a story that I want to tell here today because I think it's so appropriate that, you know, we're trying to beat it. So whatever implementation plan that we roll over from the gas tax, that it's revenue neutral, meaning it doesn't cost anyone any more money, but that's in totality, but it may not be for the individual. And so trying to come up with some methodology, because in the Valley, people travel further for work. It's regressive if you do it on a vehicle miles traveled. You do it on a registration. Maybe we get the advantage of that. It's better for us than it is in these other areas. But when I was at CSAC, our State Supervisors Association, our annual meeting, we had a breakout session. Both the transportation, the Assembly Transportation Chair and the Senate Transportation Chair came into a meeting and talked about, they've got a bill set aside, I think it's AB 1421, that maybe could be the vehicle of which whatever they come up with. if they have the political courage to do it, because I don't think anyone has the political courage at this point to actually take it on. But they were talking in an excited way about how they've come up with these ideas. And Rob Poitras, supervisor from Madera County, has been on the committee for 11 years testing this. 11 years, started in 2014. And to listen to legislators or people talk about this is a new idea. In the meantime, the revenue of the gas tax, right? We're going to start in the declining revenue. And when we do it revenue neutral, we're going to be $500 million or $1 billion short. And that's to fix our roadways. So we have to continue as an organization through the Regional Policy Council, through local COGS, to push the legislature to do something that is revenue neutral. And again, people will address it as a tax increase, and that's not the intent. The intent is that we're collecting $6 billion today, that whatever mechanism we come out with, it's $6 billion. And again, it's not getting cheaper. The cost of construction is going up, and the funds aren't going up. So we're getting less bang for our buck in the way it operates today. So anyways, that was just a big discussion we had today. It was the majority of our conversation. Thought I'd pass that.
Thank you, Vito. Any other member reports? All right, we are going to adjourn into closed session. Okay, we are reconvening from closed session and there is no report in closed session. We are adjourning.